Amazing story. So they formed the team, the Evan Nice Day, which is a great name. They had 356 gifts come in from supporters from California to Connecticut. Together they raised $37,580 for the Walk to the Queen. That amount of money made them the top fundraising team for the Kansas City Walk this year. I'd like to invite Evan's good friend, Pete, again to say a few words.
Stumbled already on that mic. Thank you. It's my great pleasure and honor to be able to introduce my partner, Evan Ice, who's a great person and a great lawyer, to receive this award sponsored by Tom Watson. Maybe I could save myself a little time, actually. If you turn to page 6 of your auction program, you'll see some comments about Evan and his family, and especially their picture. Are they up there? Not yet. Okay. But it's page 6 of your program, a sparkling family seated right here at the front table. Let me give you information about Evan. He is a 4th-generation lawyer, Kansas lawyer, from Newton, Kansas. His sister also is a 4th-generation lawyer, as I think Laura's here, and she works for Cessna Air. Went on the bench in the district court in Harvey County, where he retired from. Evan, I want to tell you about his background, if I may. Evan graduated from the University of Kansas and is from the School of Engineering in 1986, majoring in mechanical engineering, and he graduated with distinction. After he graduated, he went to work as an engineer for Boeing Aircraft Company. In 1990, he returned to Kansas University to enter the law school, and he took the law school by storm. Actually, I'd say he was a member of the Law Review at the law school. He was the editor-in-chief of the Law Review. He graduated with distinction as a member of the Order of the Coif, and he graduated, in fact, #1 in his class. So the law school was a piece of cake for Evan. In 1993, after he graduated, he joined the law firm in Lawrence of Stevens, Brand, Winter, Lundstrom, and Golden. I want to make sure to get those names straight because I'll be taken to task if I get them a little bit out of order. He shortly taken to task if I get them a little bit out of order. He shortly thereafter became a partner in the firm, and that firm is now composed of 19 lawyers with offices in Lawrence and Topeka. His practice has been focused on business organization, trusts and estates, real estate, banking, municipal government, and tax law. This will tell you that he's not a narrowly focused specialist. As a matter of fact, he's so well-rounded he can pick up in any area of the law and do a spectacular job. His law, for the past 7 years, he has been listed in Best Lawyers in America, and he is an AB-rated Martindale-Hubbell lawyer. That's the top rating you can get. He actually, in my view, is one of the best lawyers in the country. There's nothing that Evan can't handle and do it spectacularly. But with that said, I want to also bring to your attention the family more. Jill is here, and Jill, his great wife, she is employed with Lawrence Memorial Hospital as patient outcomes and joint commission coordinator, which is an important job. Her 3 daughters are Aaron, who's a junior at KU, Alex, who's at high school. Effects now seem to be coming with increasing speed, unfortunately. He has struggled to perform the physical functions normally necessary in the current practice of law, such as the use of a computer keyboard, yet he plows ahead and gets the job done. He has been reluctant to request aid and assistance out of concern of troubling others and of leaving behind some of his last vestiges of independence, such as with the use of the power chair. Remarkable tenacity describes him. He has true grit and determination to make the most of what he has left in life. His maintenance of composure in light of the way he's been dealt has been amazing. His sense of humor has been maintained, and he does have a sense of humor. Every time he's got a great collection of photos and cartoons, and something comes up, goes through the emails, and Evan comes forth with some particularly appropriate photo or cartoon and applause. So he hasn't lost that. His first concern has been for providing for his family. They come first. We've seen, I think what we've seen is the revelation of the true depth of his moral, ethical, and tenacious character. Not till now have we really seen how deep that is, and how moral, how ethical, and how tenacious, again, he is. We've seen also the depth of support and respect demonstrated by his clients and and Jill's friends. We have witnessed extraordinary courage and fortitude facing and coping with the effects of ALS, and it has been truly remarkable to see. He has had great difficulty in being mobile as he'd like to be. There's no doubt that he's suffered a lot, but he doesn't reveal that as you might expect. So I think another thing I want to say is we in the firm have been taught by his courage some really important lessons in life. So we've benefited from that alone. So I want to say at this point that everybody in our law firm, the lawyers and the staff, are exceedingly proud to have had the association with Evan Ice as a professional and personal relationship basis. We want that to continue as long as possible. I also want to thank the Keith Worthington chapter of the ALS Association and Tom Watson for honoring him. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention one other thing, and that is we have a woman in our law firm, Diane Simpson, whose brother was Keith Worthington. And there's parallels between what apparently happened to Keith Worthington and Evan are very remarkable. And maybe that's not too unusual, but for instance, Keith Worthington was a successful businessman here in Kansas City with Wilk Brothers Clothing. And he came down with the diagnosis of ALS when he had 3 teenage girls. He lived a good period of time, but it was a very difficult struggle. And I see and he was a very active person, just like Evan. So we want to say that we remember also, Diane, about your brother Keith. Finally, I've been assigned to take another task as a part of this, and that is to read a letter from Tom Watson to Evan. And this letter reads, "Dear Evan, first of all, know that you, everyone in this room, and I wish you weren't here collecting this award tonight." I do too. You and the other thousands of ALS unfortunates have gotten a raw deal, just as my friend and caddy Bruce Edwards did. We tried every way, as I'm sure you have as well, to find a cure. This painful journey gave me some real understanding of what you and your friends and loved ones are going through. From this understanding, please allow me to give you a few do's and one don't. Do live each day with humor. I think we're still on that. Do live only in the present. Do accept all the help your loved ones give you, and also your partners and law companions, okay? Promise I promise that I, along with the entire ALS community, will not cease in our efforts to raise funds for research and patient care, as well as awareness of ALS by the public until a cure is achieved. I have 100% faith that the experts will open the door and find the Rosetta Stone, the cure for ALS. It's been a long, hard road for them so far, as it has been for you and others who have this damn disease. Being human, I have to admit that I'm becoming more and more impatient with the lack of progress, but my faith is still strong. I wish you my very best, and please know that I think of you often. Most sincerely, Tom Watson. So at this point, Evan is here, and Jill, would you come forward too? Someone has a presentation. Right? Maybe. Oh, you're going to talk, are you? You get to talk. Oh, great.
Well, thanks, Pete. I've been up here quite a while. I didn't realize you were going to talk that long. I knew it'd take me a while to get up here, so I wanted to be ready when it was time. I should have asked you in advance. This is it's very humbling. I appreciate all of this. But I understand it's not about me. It's not about anything I did. I'm here this evening as a representative of everybody with ALS. PALS, that's what we're called. Acronym, Persons with ALS. So I'm here for the PALS. I'm the face of ALS this evening. Now, I've given oral arguments in court and to judges, but I don't give speeches to large crowds like this very often. So I asked a friend, I said, well, do you have any hints, any clues? He says, you got to tell a joke. You got to soften them up at the start and tell a joke. And I was like, I'm not very good with jokes. My jokes are just dumb one-liners, like my duck jokes. You know, when there's a flock of ducks flying across the sky and they're in a V and one leg's longer than the other, you know why that is? It's because there's more ducks on that side. Or, do you know how to sell a duck to a man who's hard of hearing? Do you want to buy a duck? So my coworkers refer to these as dumb Evan jokes. And I knew I wasn't going to be able to tell dumb Evan jokes here, and I was going to have to come with something new and maybe topical. And I thought, well, the topic is ALS, and it's kind of hard to think of a joke that you can tell amongst a large group about ALS, because it's just not very funny. There's definitely some humor involved, but it's all situational, and it's really close family and friends and silly things that happen. So I guess I'm not going to tell a joke. So you're saved. So I'll try to get to my speech. Driving over here, Jill said, well, whatever you do, don't try to be charming or intellectual or witty. Just be yourself. So here goes. I've got notes here. Hopefully it won't be like senior night at Allen Fieldhouse. I'll try to stick to my task. I'm cognizant of the often stated statements that nobody remembers what you say at deals like this. They only remember how long it takes you to say it. And problem is the tables are turned, and I'm not the one in the audience. I'm the one up giving the speech, and I'm a lawyer with an open mic. So I just hope I don't blow the schedule. First thing I thought I'd do is maybe just give a little bit of background about just my process of being diagnosed. I've always been healthy. I've had a relatively good diet, got plenty of sleep, and a lot of exercise. I think I missed 2 days of work in August of 1989, and as best I can remember, I didn't miss another day of work for being sick, until like maybe 2005 or 2006. I could count on one hand the number of times I went to the doctor between the time I graduated from college and fall of 2012, and most of those were sports-related injuries, the boomeritis things. I worked out 5 or 6 days a week. I'd swim, bike, run on alternating days. People would ask me, well, what was I training for? And my answer would be life. I'm training for life. And this kind of routine took a turn for the worse in the summer of 2012. I noticed that other swimmers that I was swimming with that I usually would handily beat were staying up with me, and some of them were even beating me. At the time, I didn't think that much about it. I thought, well, they've been working on their strokes, they've been training harder than me. You know, it is what it is. But I also noticed that summer that I was having more difficulty running, and I couldn't keep my same running pace. And my bike rides were a little bit slower. My average speed was just off a little bit. But once again, I didn't give it too much thought. I thought, well, I'm getting older, and if I want to, keep up my speed, I'm going to have to work a lot harder. So it wasn't until our family took a trip to Monterey, California in August that I really kind of thought maybe there was a problem. I'd been running in the hot, humid weather. 2012 was a really hot summer again. And I've been struggling, and I was looking forward to just a good run in dry weather, 50-degree temperature. I thought that'd just be spectacular. So I got up early one morning, went out and ran 7 miles, went 3.5 miles out, 3.5 miles back, and it was not good. I went the whole way, but it wasn't any easier than running in 80-degree humidity in Lawrence. So we got back to Lawrence, and I kept running, but it was getting harder and harder. I was straining muscles. I couldn't run. I never ran another 7-mile route without stopping after that run in Monterey. In October, I strained a calf muscle about 2 miles from home and walked the last 2 miles home, and I never really ran again after that. So the last really good run I had was in Monterey in California in August. So I finally broke down and went to a doctor for a physical in October. And doctor, he couldn't find anything wrong. He said my thyroid was maybe off a little bit, and it was not a big deal, but I should come back in 6 weeks for another blood test. And, maybe it was just a blip, or maybe not, and if it wasn't, I could start on medication, no big deal. He also suggested, well, maybe I could take a blood or a stress test just to make sure I didn't have a heart problem. I wasn't going to have a heart attack while I was out riding a bike or doing something. So I took the heart test or stress test, and they said, I don't have any problems there. So I was supposed to go back in 6 weeks. Being a person who's avoided doctors, I waited 12. So during those 12 weeks, I continued to work out. I substituted an elliptical trainer for running. I was still swimming and biking, and it's just I was sore. My muscles were twitching, and I was starting to develop a little bit of a limp on my left leg. And I'm like, well, gee, what's going on? I quit drinking caffeine. Thought maybe that the caffeine was making me twitchy. I tried easier workouts. I tried eating bananas and more electrolytes. I even tried not carrying my billfold in my back pocket, thinking maybe that my billfold was pressing on a nerve or something, but none of that helped. So my New Year's resolution for 2013 was to start running again. So I thought, I'm going to go back to the doctor. I'm going to get a blood test. I'm going to start this medication. I'm going to be cured. So I did go back. My thyroid was still low. He started me on levothyroxine. He said, that's no big deal. People take it, and you'll be fine. But he also suggested maybe I go see a neurologist. So I made an appointment, saw a neurologist at the Lawrence Memorial Hospital end of January. He did some more blood tests, a couple of MRIs, a whole bunch of other things, tests, and it all came back fine. And I thought, well, that's good. Well, no, that's not good. ALS is a disease of elimination. And when they can't figure out anything else you have, then they kind of zero in on ALS. So he sent me to the KU Med Center, and I had an appointment there on February 12th, 2013, and that's when I was formally diagnosed with ALS. And I knew about ALS because I was Phi Delta. And I knew Keith Worthington. And when I was an undergraduate, I raised money for a basketball tournament, and we would raise about $25,000 or $30,000 every year, and we donated it to the ALS Association. So I knew what ALS was. And the doctor said that she was sorry to say that I had motor neuron disease. And I thought, good, at least it's not ALS. Too bad for me, because they're the same thing. Motor neuron disease, as I understand it, is maybe what most of the world outside the United States calls ALS. So here's the interesting thing. For 7 or 8 years, I ran and I biked with a Garmin GPS watch. If I wasn't wearing the watch, it didn't happen. I would keep my pace. I know how far I went. I know my average speed. I know how fast I was running at any one time, how fast I was biking. And it worked flawlessly. Thousands and thousands of miles of running and biking, and that watch just worked. I turned it on and it worked. Well, something else happened on my run in Monterey. My GPS watch just quit working, just went blank. Screen's blank, won't do anything. I got back to the hotel room, tried to hard reset, tried to recharge it. It's dead. It's broken, no doubt about it. And little did I know that I'd be diagnosed with ALS 6 months later. So, was that a strange coincidence? Was that God telling me that my running was over and it was time to slow down and start a new phase of my life? I don't know. But I think that's strange. This is it's called a Courage Award, so I guess I feel like I should say a little bit about courage. To me, one definition of courage is setting aside fear and attempting something you know, but you know it'll be difficult and you know you might fail. My granddad used to tell me that the most important things in life take work and are difficult to achieve. He said, if it was easy, everyone would do it. So the other side of that coin is that courage is attempting to do something important. Courage requires us to get out of our comfort zone and risk failure. More than 100 years ago in Paris, France, Teddy Roosevelt gave a speech, and there's a famous quote. Every one of you in this room have heard it, but I think it bears repeating. He said, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points at how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows at the end of the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." So how does this relate to ALS? Well, to me, it means you can't give up. You got to take it one day at a time. You have to stay in that arena, and you got to keep fighting. Whether you're a pal or a caregiver, you have to endure. You have to persevere. Although ALS can take away the ability to run, bike, swim, walk, perform daily life activities, it can only take away our spirit and our intellect and who we are if we let it. Mind is an amazing thing. With the right mindset and determination, we can accomplish unbelievable things, things that we can't believe happened. One fall, 7 or 8 years ago, I was running in a half marathon. I started out too fast. I was at mile 12 and I was just totally exhausted. I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it to the finish line without having to stop and walk. Just gassed. And I saw this stupid sign. And it said, "Pain is temporary, glory is forever." And as goofy as it sounds, that sign helped me make it to the finish line that day. And I ended up with a personal record that day, which ends up being the fastest half marathon that I ever ran. So, that's kind of a silly thing to talk about, a run, a middle-aged guy setting a personal record and how that somehow is glory. But the point is, with the right mindset, you can do amazing things. And enduring pain and suffering to reach something big at the other end takes courage. So tonight's a fundraiser for ALS. And so I want to say a couple of things about the ALS Association. You'll have to look at the annual reports, talk to board members, and maybe do some forensic accounting to figure out where all of the money goes. But I just want to talk about two areas that have got my attention. The first area is funding that supports programming and providing guidance and support to PALS and caregivers. I'm here to tell you that when you're diagnosed with ALS, it's a sucker punch in the gut. And you're overwhelmed, and you really don't know what to do or what to think or where to turn. And by golly, that ALS Association is there. And they know what's going on. They've been there, done that. And they just can provide absolutely invaluable assistance. And they came to our house and helped, come up with ideas for some home improvements. I was told a month ago that it's time to start thinking, or 6 weeks ago, to start thinking about a power chair. And ALS Association has helped me understand, power chairs and bands and everything that goes. It's just completely overwhelming, and it's just so much help that the ALS Association provides. And they can't do that without support and assistance made possible from generous donations to the ALS Association. And the second area that I want to talk about is research support. ALS has been referred to as an orphan disease. Only about 30,000 people in the United States have ALS at any one time. So there's not a huge paycheck in it for the drug companies to spend a lot of money to develop cures, because there's not that many people that would be buying their medications if they did find a cure. So I'm not going to say all, but most of the research funding for ALS is by private donors and governmental support. And, without donations to the ALS Association, there wouldn't be the funding, or at least a lot of the funding for the research. I was born in 1963. Since then, medicine, science, and technology have taken huge leaps forward. Smartphone the size of a deck of cards has more computing power than a computer the size of this room did in 1963. Polio has all been eradicated worldwide. In 1963, nobody even knew that Al Gore was going to create the internet. And now we can't live without it. Any one of us can name 100 other amazing advancements since 1963. One thing that hasn't changed, though, is the prognosis of somebody diagnosed with ALS. There's no cure. There's no meaningful treatment that even delays the progression of the disease. The only difference, or the main difference between now and 1963 is that people are diagnosed a little bit earlier. So maybe they have a little bit longer life expectancy, but that's only because they know about it longer. So funding for ALS research is desperately needed. There's a lot of really smart, dedicated physicians and scientists, and they're testing drugs, and they're testing stem cells, and they're doing all sorts of different things, but it takes money. It takes enormous amounts of money to do an FDA trial. Your attendance this evening and additional contributions to ALS Association will help fund this research. So I want to thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for bidding on auction items. Thank you for everything that you've done in the past and will do in the future to support the ALS Association. I think I'll close this evening with one of my favorite sayings of all time, and it's part of the Serenity Prayer. It says, "God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference."